So hello and welcome to the course. I'm Dr. Harvey. Welcome to Research Methods in Psychology. This is an exciting course, and this is most likely a capstone course for your major. And this applies to a couple of different majors, but this course is important in the grand scheme of the degree that you are trying to achieve. We have a lot to cover in this class, we have a lot to learn in this class, but it is a very practical class. And what we learn in this class is very interdisciplinary and applies to many different fields. And it will ultimately help you become a better consumer of information, a better producer of information, which is something that we will aim to do in this class. So what we're going to do today, first day, it's syllabus day, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about the class. We'll review the syllabus, we'll take a look at Canvas. We do have a few technological things we need to work on, like accessing the different software we'll be using for the course. So we're going to try and cover all of that here today. So let's talk about why this course matters. So first, even before we hop into the syllabus, I do want to kind of soapbox about the class a little bit. This class is a culmination of much of what you've learned so far in your degree path, and what it really does is it starts to apply that information. So this is a laboratory course, it's a 5-unit course. You'll be doing 5, 4, something like that. You'll be doing an independent research project in this course. And in a lot of ways, I think it's kind of like the breakthrough into independent work at the college level in the psychology major. So it's really important. And then in addition to that, in addition to what it means for your actual degree, it has a lot of practical importance. We live in a world that's very rich in data, very rich in information, but a world that's also very rich in misinformation and misuse of data. And this class aims to help you be a better consumer of that type of information. So on all counts, I think it's important. I might be a little biased, which is something we'll also talk about in this class, biases. But it really is a great course. And if you're interested in this material, I think you'll get a lot out of it. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to screen share with you our Canvas page. Hopefully you have already seen our Canvas page. If you have not already seen the Canvas page, if you haven't been here yet, make sure that you go there. We're going to be doing virtually the entire course through Canvas. Everything will be done through Canvas. Announcements and assignments, everything. So you'll notice up until this point, you may have received some emails for me as well as an announcement posted to Canvas. I will not be emailing you anymore directly. I will only be corresponding completely through Canvas here, at least in our general announcements. So here's our homepage. When you open up our course, this is what you'll see. You'll see some recent announcements. Please do make sure that you're reading these announcements. If you're here, that means that you have read the announcement, so good for you, keep it up. We will be corresponding through Canvas pretty much exclusively, so you want to make sure that Canvas is your friend, that you're comfortable with it, and additionally, I do recommend getting the Canvas app as well for mobile use. The Canvas app is great. It will help you help you out along the way here. See, we're an asynchronous course, meaning that we do not have a preset meeting time. My email is front and center, so please do email me if you have questions. And then we have a little intro to the class. The class is great, the class is important. I hope you enjoy it because I really do believe that it will be to your benefit to learn what we have to offer here in this class, so just read through that. I have a little bit about me here. I have a general overview of topics in the course. We cover a lot more than this, but here's our brief overview. This is really, hold on to your hats, this is really statistics part 2. Don't let that worry you, don't let that concern you, because we're going to handle it in a very different way. What you may have learned in your stats class was the literal statistics, how to compute a statistic. In this class, we're applying it. So what does the statistic mean, and what do we do with it once we have it? So I think that that's often very enlightening to many students that come out of a stats course when we really start to use it and apply it to real-world information. And that's what we're going to aim to do here. So I have a few links here. The link to the modules page, that's where everything is, and that's where all our good stuff is. So I'm going to go ahead and show you our modules page. And that's where we'll mainly operate the course out of. There's a link to the syllabus, and then our textbook. We have a free textbook. You can all thank me personally for being so kind to find you a good free textbook. So we'll talk about the textbook. Textbook is good, it's free, that's what makes it so good, but it's good also that it contains all the information we need and more. And then we'll even additionally supplement it with more real-world materials in the class, so I think that's a win-win-win for us. So I'm at the modules page, right? And you've got your syllabus here. You can access modules from that quick link on the first page or the modules section over here on the sidebar. So there's a few things here. I have a few modules that are viewable to you. Actually, I think they're all viewable to you at this point. So this class is demanding, it's challenging. You'll be working on an independent research project all semester, and that's really the center of this class. So having correspondence not only with me but with your peers is important and helpful. And again, this modules page is where you should always go. This is where everything that we'll be doing week to week will be, as well as these kind of long-standing items that we'll need access to. So the syllabus and the textbook are here, so let's go ahead and look at them. All right, so let's take a look at our syllabus. I did update this today. Let's take a look. Hopefully you gave this at least a skim before we met here today, but I do want to go over some of the more important features here. Well, it's all very important. So instructor, that's me, Serena Harvey, Dr. Harvey. It's nice to meet you. And you've got my phone number. Text me only, please. Don't email me if at all possible. Message me through the system because that is what our school requires. Okay, so you've got your fall schedule, some basic information, the course overview. They forced me to put all this stuff in here that we don't want to talk about. So we're going to be looking at the scientific method. We start with the scientific method and how we use it to look at behavior. We'll be talking about human behavior, of course, it's psychology, and how we apply research to it and the complications of it. It does get difficult. I mentioned that this class is very interdisciplinary. A lot of what we learn in this class could be applied to business, biology, sociology. But what's different is that psychology has its own set of challenges. So if you're doing research in biology, maybe you draw somebody's blood and take a look at the makeup of their blood. If you're trying to see why somebody is depressed, that's not exactly going to work. It's a little bit more multifaceted than that. So psychology comes with its own set of considerations and limitations with research, and we're going to be discussing that. So we're going to do a lot of what I would think is fun stuff. We're going to use descriptive methods, words that you hopefully recognize a little bit from your stats class. We're going to collect data, we're going to analyze it, we're going to interpret it. We're going to use a couple of different software programs to help us out, Excel and SPS, which hopefully you've used. And then we're going to write it up into a beautiful research report. And research methods is much as about scientific communication. How do we communicate our findings and our knowledge to others? That's the point. So what will you be learning in this class? Course student learning outcomes, which I think is here. Okay, so you'll be able to read a scientific article, develop a hypothesis. Actually, we'll start working on that pretty soon, maybe next week or the week after. And how do you communicate science? How do you communicate that information? And I will reiterate that the world is very rich in information, but it's also rich in misinformation. So we want to become a critical consumer of information. And by that I mean give it a real once-over. Really give information a fair look, analyze its strengths and weaknesses. Okay, so required materials. You all have got it fairly easy. You don't need to purchase the textbook, and you don't need to purchase any of the software either that comes through the college. Yeah, we have the textbook. There's a link to the textbook in the module section. Free textbooks do come with its pros and cons. The pros are that it's free, it's accessible, it's a good textbook, excellent textbook. The cons are that it's a little bit outdated, but thankfully a lot of these things don't change very fast, so it's not a big deal. The things that do change fast, like the current state of research, we'll be reading current papers in the class, so we'll be able to fill in those gaps just fine. And if you really are interested, there are more current versions of this book available, they're just not free. So if you do want one, let me know, I can guide you to that resource. Now let me talk about the software that you'll need to access, okay? You'll need two key programs for this course. So we have, first is SPS, that's a statistical software. You can download it directly from Canvas, the school provides it. There's a software key provided that you'll need to enter when you install it, and SPSS will save you a lot of time. If you're having flashbacks to your statistics class where you did everything by hand, we're not going to do anything by hand in this course. We're going to use these wonderful tools to help us do things very quickly. Second is Microsoft Excel, which you can access through Office 365 via the portal, the school's portal. You'll log in using your student credentials, same ones you use for Canvas. And so Excel is a spreadsheet software that we'll use for some basic analysis and data organization. So to set this up, first download SPSS, install it using the provided software key, then access Excel through the portal, and then play around with both programs before the assignments come in a couple weeks so that you're sort of familiar with it. Alright, now let's talk about a few course policies. I only have a few, but they're important. So course policy number 1 is non-attendance during the first week might result in you being dropped unless you contact me. Attendance sort of a funny word now with online, but that means participation. So make sure you're participating in the course. We have an assignment due at the end of this week. Make sure that you do it. If you don't, I'll think that you don't want to complete the course and I'll drop you. The registrar wants to know who's not participating so they can remove you and make room for others who do want to take the course. So if you're intending to take the course, make sure you're active during this first week. Make sure you remain active throughout the course, but during the first week especially, the registrar wants to know who's active, who's not, so please be extra vigilant this first week. Here's the second one. This is a big one as well. This is in regard to late work. So I usually don't accept late work. I usually say no late work. This class builds on itself though. If you're turning work in late, you're only hurting yourself, which I still believe, but we're living in a different world now. There's a lot going on. We're in this virtual landscape, and the class does build on itself, so I'm making a little bit of an edit to this. Work will be accepted up to 2 weeks late for half credit. The reason we have this 2 weeks late is because the class is a class that, like I said, builds on itself. Every assignment will lead into the next, to the next, to the next, until you're working on your research report. So turning work in late is only setting yourself back the entire way. Most classes, the information doesn't exist in a vacuum, and that's very true here. If you don't turn in the references for your research project, you can't write the introduction for your research project. Then you can't write the methods section, and it's a snowball. So this is kind of a safeguard to protect you. If something happens, you can turn work in up to 2 weeks late for half credit. But again, you'll see once we get going in this class, everything builds on itself. You don't want to get behind. We work in plenty of time for you to work on what needs to be worked on, so I hope we don't need to use this policy, but it is there. And the last one is respect for your peers. Just be nice. We're going to talk to each other online. We're going to hopefully everybody will be communicating. This is a professional environment, but it will be a fun one at times, I hope anyways. So just be respectful. We'll talk about some controversial things as well, because science can be a little more juicy sometimes. Things that can be personal, that have been debated for a long time. And we have to interpret it through a scientific lens. But we want to make sure that we're being respectful of all persons involved when we do so. That doesn't mean we have to be politically correct. I have no problem with everybody's beliefs and opinions. Just be nice about it. Okay, well then let's talk about the class really. Here it is. Here's what we're going to do. We had the schedule up here somewhere and in the syllabus. So we'll go through it kind of step by step. So this week we're introducing the course. We're talking about what research methods are. That's part of our first assignment this week, which we'll take a look at after this. So we're talking about scientific method, talking about scientific literacy, how to read science, generalization, how do we make generalizations about our findings to other groups of people, the ethics of research, how we sample. We're going to create a survey, which is very fun, I think. You'll be creating a survey either on your own or with some classmates. We'll be collecting data, and you'll be collecting data on your research project, and that's really the center of the class here. Experiments, experimental design. We'll talk about psychological testing, reliability and validity of our measures, and then we really shift into types of analysis and statistical research reporting for our projects. So if you take a look at the assignments, you'll get an idea of the general timeline of what we'll be working on in the class. You'll be working on your project, doing analysis for your project. So if you take a look, really the last month of the class is just us getting the projects together, and we work on it throughout the class. One thing to note here is that the due dates will be posted on Canvas. This is just letting you know what assignments to expect for that week. These might be a little bit subject to change, but ultimately you'll find everything on Canvas. We have an assignment this week. Every assignment will look the same in our Canvas course. It'll be under a module with a due date, and that's where you'll find the actual due date. But here's a general overview of when assignments can be expected. So let's talk about what those assignments are. I have here all submitted through Canvas. All due dates will be posted on Canvas. And this is why it's very important that you are friends with Canvas, so you can hop on to see what's going on, so you can see what we have going on for the week. So what do we have? We have a few different categories for assignments. We have article assignments, which are the reading of an article and responding to it. So I have some prompts. We do this 3 different times. Okay. So we pick 3 interesting articles with interesting methods, and you'll go ahead and interpret the research methodology and their findings, and then we'll discuss it in class. I do try and handpick interesting articles for this reason, so we'll have one of those coming up. Our first one isn't for a little bit. We don't have one until like week 5, so we can file that away for now. But we work on scientific literacy first, how to read science before we hop into analyzing the articles, and that will be upcoming here. And I have some resources to help us with this, because reading scientific articles can be challenging. And if you're not an expert in the field, it can be difficult. So we work on that together. We have statistical exercises. A lot of this should be carryover from your stats class, especially if your statistics class used SPSS and Excel. We'll be using the software to manipulate the data in some way, to run certain types of tests, organize the data, get some statistics. So we do this for a few different types of tests. I'll throw some words out here and we'll see if you can remember them. We start with descriptive statistics, how to describe data. We move into things like t-tests, if we remember t-tests, and ANOVA, types of tests that compare mean differences and variance across groups. We look at chi-square testing, which compares categorical data, correlations, which compare ratio variables to see if there's a relationship between the two. Correlations give us the slope, the strength of the relationship. So we'll move through all the major types of tests that you might use in your project. Don't sweat now, don't worry, because I know statistics anxiety all too well. I teach statistics as well, so some of you even took it with me. So don't sweat it, we're going to take it one step at a time. We're doing applied statistics in the class, and I think that students often enjoy it. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but I think that this class really takes statistics in a different way than you've maybe been exposed to so far. So don't let your statistics anxiety set in just yet, okay? You'll be okay. Then we have our paper sections. We're going to write a full research report. We actually have a week where we talk about research reporting. I believe that's next week, the week after, week 2 or 3. We talk about research reports and the structure of a research report, and then you're going to write one. So by the end of the class, you'll have a full research report. And a research report has a few different sections to it. It has an introduction, it has a methodology, it has results, it has discussion, and it has citations or references. So we'll be turning in all of those sections. You'll be turning them in to me over time. So if you take a look, we have our references due around week 4 or 5. So you'll start working gradually on your paper once we get some of the foundational information done. So your paper sections are worth 10 points each, so not a heavy amount of points, but your final paper is worth more points. So it's basically your first draft of your paper sections. That's what the paper sections are for you to get them to me so I can give you some feedback so you can make those edits for your final paper. We do have some quizzes. We have 3 multiple choice, short answer, non-comprehensive quizzes. Those are also all going to be in the first section of the class. Again, we get to a point where we're basically done with new content and we're focused more specifically on your project. So these will just be on the recorded lectures. There are recorded lectures for this class, and that's where you can find the information on the quizzes. That information is ultimately going to help you with your final paper, so it's a beautiful full circle. And so that's just a check for the concepts that you're learning, reading the book, watching the lectures, and really keeping up with the material. We have progress checks, okay? Our first assignment is a progress check. The progress we're checking this week is that you're participating in the class and you have a psychological topic that you're interested in that might guide you to your final project topic. So progress checks will be a number of things, and we'll talk more about that as we go. But one progress check will be creating a survey, will be showing me your data. It's just making sure that you're moving along in the process of the research project. So those are easy points as long as you're keeping up with what's going on in the class. It's just checking that you're doing what we're working on. And then lastly, we have our final shebang, which is our research paper, and we do something called a research symposium. Somewhere along here. Anyways, it's at the bottom, which is it's a lot of fun. It's basically a short presentation of your research, and presentation isn't in the literal sense where you stand up in front of everybody because it's an online class, but you'll basically be creating a summary of your project to share with others, and we'll do that in a virtual format, of course. So that's it. If you take a look at the last week, 2 weeks anyways, we have our research symposium. You'll just turn in your paper. We don't have like a written final exam, it's just a submission of our paper. So we don't have too many categories for assignments. It's pretty contained in small containers here, but really what we're doing is working on your final paper. All of this is just working on your final project along the way. So we take it one step at a time, we start nice and slow, we ramp up, we get ready to create a big and beautiful research paper, okay? So now let me show you the textbook. Looking at the textbook in Canvas is futile at best. It'll load forever, it'll take a long time. This is a really big file. So don't look at the textbook in here. Download it in the PDF so that it's easier for you to view. Make sure that you're aware of that so you don't, get going and be like, hey, the textbook is broken. Just download it and have it available to you, okay? So this is a great resource for a number of reasons. They have a lot of great examples in here. The chapters are good. They're pretty concise. They're relatively short, so it's good. Take a look at the textbook. I'll let you know as we go what chapters we're reading. On the lectures, you'll see I have the chapter, the corresponding book chapter that the lecture is based on. So make sure that you're looking at the textbook. I know that with online text, with online classes, it's easy to forget that the textbook exists, but it is here. Take a look at the textbook. It is here to help you. Make sure you download it, okay? So I have a few more modules here before we get into the first actual week. So these are all to help out in various ways. If you've never used Canvas before, this is your first time using Canvas. This is a general Canvas student orientation, so this helps you do a lot of number of things, lots of tutorials and information here on how to use the app, etc. So if you're a Canvas expert, maybe you don't need to take a look there, but if you're new to Canvas, I do recommend you look at it. There are a lot of features that are built in to help you out. They can't help you out if you don't know about them, so make sure you familiarize yourself here. I have some research resources. I'll be referencing these throughout the course. They'll stay here throughout the course, so we have a bit on how to read scientific articles. When we start to read articles, I'll bring your attention to this, but it couldn't hurt to take a look at it now. We'll be working with APA formatting. Some of you might be familiar, some of you might not be. It is a formatting style that we use to make sure that our communication in psychology is consistent. So we're going to learn it, and we have all these wonderful resources to help us learn it. So these are here to help you if you're thinking in your head, what the heck is APA? These will tell you. These will help you, and we'll talk about it as we go along in the course as well. And then I have a list of research ideas, okay? So this leads nicely into our first progress check. You don't have to use them, but they're there for you. Okay, so first week, we do have a progress check to make sure that you're in the class, making sure that you're active in the class. This is due on Friday by the end of the day. Most of our assignments will be due at the end of the week, the occasional Wednesday, so you have plenty of time to make sure that you know what's going on before these things are submitted. So we have a couple of questions here. If we click on it, wait, is that it? No, sorry, progress check. Okay, so what is your name? Introduce yourself. What are your hobbies, just icebreaker stuff. And then the last one is just asking what you're interested in psychology. So hopefully there's something in psychology that interests you, and the point of this question is to get you thinking about what you might want to do a research project on. We'll get into a lot more of the specifics on what is feasible for your projects. You'll be collecting data from other students, other college students. So basic things like we can't collect data on children because we don't have them available to us. But beyond that, we want to start thinking generally about topics that interest you. So I have this research project topic ideas to give you some ideas for your research topic. It's just a long list of topic ideas in psychology with a little extra blurb in here about what types of relationships you might be looking for later on. But this is available to you so you can take a look at different topics that you might want to take, that you might want to use for your project. It's not an exhaustive list. There are plenty more that aren't on this list, but again, take a look at it. I think that what often happens is that we forget in the midst of a lot of our statistics and methodology that this is in fact a psychology course. So we want to look at human behavior, and there are lots of different ways that we can do that. And then about week 1. Okay, so let's just talk about what else we have here. It's our first week, okay? We're mainly making sure that you can get into Canvas, access the materials, all of that, and then we'll hit the ground running a little bit more next week, but we do have our first topic. So if we click into here, this is a set of slides, our first lecture slides. Why is it not? Oh, here we go. Okay. Chapter 1, okay, of the book. So these are available to you as PDFs. You can download them, you can keep them for yourself. So, so you've got your PowerPoint. Sorry, I'm getting a little discombobulated here. You have video lectures, okay? We don't have live lecturing in this class. I won't be lecturing during our, we won't be having live sessions because it's an online class. So you can you can watch the recordings here on Canvas, okay? And you can do it anytime that you want. Notice that we have due dates, okay? So it'll be due by midnight or 11:59 at night, precisely. So every week will look like this. We have topics, we have an assignment. Next week, and all the modules are open now, so if you want to get a head start, you can. So you've got week 2 and so on. We'll just keep trucking along. That's the general overview, okay? All right, so I'm thinking that's probably about enough for today in terms of introducing the class. I'll end on a couple notes here. Make sure that you're familiar with Canvas. Make sure that you're familiar with Canvas, okay? That's really going to be to your benefit. And make sure that you're in communication, because I think that in our virtual landscape, it's easy to be a little bit out of touch. you know, a little bit out of contact with the teacher and classmates and stuff. So I really urge you to not let that happen to you in this class for a number of reasons. You'll get the most out of it if you're active in the class. It'll be easier for you if you're active in the class. So I'll leave you here today with, make sure you do your progress check number 1. You're letting me know that you're active in the class so I don't drop you. And please do poke around with these other features on Canvas. Download your software. Be in touch if you have any questions. This class is challenging. It builds on itself, but it's very doable. We take it in small chunks. We do it one little piece at a time. So you want to make sure you're not missing any of those pieces. You want to make sure that you're getting all those pieces done in a timely fashion so that you're on top of it, because this class builds. We're building to a research paper, which is the pinnacle of research methods. And it's fun, hopefully, because you get to choose what it's on. So make sure you download SPSS from Canvas using the software key, access Excel through Office 365 through the portal, complete your progress check, and I'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone.